Perfect. Well, thanks for jumping on, everybody. We've got a few people jumping on here, but we'll kind of give everybody a second to get started and get here on the live on the Facebook Live here. So yeah, this is our second week of doing our Facebook Live of the Coffee and Business podcast. So last week it was a couple of minutes before we decided to record the podcast that we thought we'd give it a try to do this as a live show, and it went off with only a few hitches. So we figured we'd give it a shot again. Seemed like a lot of people got to tune in, and they use Facebook as a platform all the time, and so it was easily accessible to everyone. So we just thought we'd give it another try. But yeah, welcome to the Coffee and Business podcast. I'm Ty, and as always, I'm joined with the wonderful Jason Olthoff there on the other end.
Hey, everybody, how you all doing?
If you can tell, we both have different backgrounds today. Jason's flipped around and I'm doing it from the kitchen table today. So we thought we'd change it up and see if anybody noticed.
I got my flag in the background here, so that's kind of which side I got my flag there. Gotta decide which shoulder it's over, but yeah, we got it. We thought we'd change it up a little bit tonight.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good night to try something new because we have a great topic for you this week. We mentioned it at the end of last week's podcast, and we coined the term during last week's podcast, if you were listening. So this week, we're going to talk about the 60-second business plan. And this is a brand new term. It doesn't seem like anybody else has ever talked about this before. So if you're listening, this is maybe the first time you've heard something like this. We are rolling out this new idea. And really it revolves around the idea that so many times entrepreneurs get stuck from having an idea to actually putting it into action, actually seeing it come to life. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know what it's like to have all these different ideas rolling around in your brain. And if you're like us, we have ideas all the time, every single day for a different business, a new marketing strategy, a new way to do something. And that's great. That's the mark of an entrepreneur. But if you're just getting started or you're tired of just having ideas, but not actually having anything come to light, actually come to real life, this hopefully will be a helpful tool for you to really think about, okay, this is an idea that I get excited about. Now I'm going to implement it. And that's the 60-second business plan. So really, there's three things that the 60-second business plan entails. We like to keep it really simple because you should be able to think of these three things within that 60 seconds, and bam, you've got your business. Your business is born. Now, that doesn't mean that you've got to have everything thought out. You don't have to think about all of the financing pieces. You don't have to think about who are you going to hire? What's the logo going to look like? What's even the name? What's the name going to be? None of that matters in the 60-second business plan. That's all going to come. Don't worry. That's down the road. But this is really a tool to help you get over the hump of that initial idea and then put that idea into play. So just diving in here, part one of the 60-second business plan, or the first thing to consider, is you have to commit to taking action. This is the most important thing. If you're not ready to commit to taking action on something, that's fine. It's okay to leave things in the idea phase. But if this is something that you wish that you could do, if it's something that you really want to be able to do, committing to taking action has to be the prerequisite. And so what that looks like could be many different things. Maybe it is, getting up at a formal partnership together, asking someone to be your business partner. Maybe it's just as simple as, throwing a website up, throwing a Facebook page up. And that kind of starts to bleed into the second part here. But regardless of what it is, you have to take action of some sort. So maybe it's going out and, knocking on doors, trying to find customers, whatever that looks like. There has to be some actionable step because, again, we're trying to get from that idea stage into the action stage, into actually having this business become a real thing. So that's the first step. And so, Jason, what are your thoughts around being able to commit to taking action?
Yeah, I think that it's that mindset. It's a mindset that you got to get prepared to take action, and you got to commit to taking that action, because it's one thing to have the idea there, but if you don't put it into action, that's all it is an idea. And that's the difference between success and failure right there, is taking that action step. And sorry guys, I just broke a tooth last night, so it's hard to talk. So Ty's going to do most of the talking tonight. Just so you don't think that I'm drunk or something, but yeah, it all has to start with you committing to saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And there's things that I've done in the past that, I've had people say, well, Jason, why do you wait to do that until you're a little bit ready or farther along or whatever? And I say, because if I wait, I probably won't do it, because actions get broken down, or our thoughts get broken down, and we get negative stuff in, and then something else comes up and we don't ever take action on what we needed to do. That's going to take us to that next level. So that is the first one, is to commit. So back to Ty.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think back to my, start into being, a business owner, when Alyssa and I first had the idea to start our marketing company, we were still back in college when we had this idea. And at first, it was a photography company. And Alyssa was wanting to get into. I've got my alarm over here. Sorry.
One thing, as you were saying, that Ty, businesses change over time too. You start out in one direction, especially if you're in marketing, you look at photography and something that kind of morphs into something else. So, and that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is just another example of the beauties of live television here. But we've committed to taking action here. We're just rolling with it. But really back to what I was saying is, when Alyssa and I first had this idea, she talked about wanting to get a camera and get into specifically livestock photography, and maybe some senior picture stuff. And I can remember us sitting down and talking about this. And I said, I believe in this idea. I have $500 in my bank account, because granted, I'm a college student, right? So this is a lot of money to me. And I said, whatever it takes, I want to invest that into this company. And even this idea. And so really from that moment on, things started to spiral. And like you said, when a business starts, it's not always in its final form. It might have a different life as you start to get experience. But if we would have sat around and like you said, Jason, sat around and thought about it a little bit more, okay, is photography exactly the right thing that we want to do? What if we did logo design? What if we did websites? What if we did marketing services, which are all things that, became of the business. But if we would have sat there and tried to think of all that stuff right then and there, you're right, we wouldn't have gotten started. And so it took that moment of just saying, look, this is a good idea. This is something that I believe in. And that was the start of our business. And yeah, it started off as something small, and it started off as photos, and then it morphed into video, and then it morphed into all these other things to what it is today. But really committing to taking action was the first thing that we had to do. We couldn't keep it in the idea phase any longer. We both knew it was going to be a good idea. We both liked the idea. We both got excited about the idea. So then we had to commit to taking action. So then rolling into the second step here of the 60-second business plan.
Can I add something there, Ty?
Yes.
So one other thing, as you're talking about the, the action step and stuff like that. If you wait, because the only reason people have a 30-page business plan, in my opinion, is for the banks, is for financing and stuff like that. But if you wait till you have all that stuff done, you probably won't take action. I remember my dad, he's out with his manager, and his manager said, hey, let's go talk to this person about our services. And he said, well, I don't know everything yet. And she said, if you wait till you know everything, you won't take action. And I live by that today. You got to take action and move forward. And sometimes it morphs into something else, and that's okay. So back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I think the second part is an extension of taking action. I would call this the accountability piece. And that is telling people. So you've got an idea, You've committed to taking action of some sort, and now you've got to tell people. It's been said many, many times that, somebody that has a business that's not known, they're not going to do very well, right? You've got to have people know about your business. And this doesn't mean you've got to go out and buy ads. It doesn't mean you've got to go out and get a billboard or hand out flyers or have a logo or have a website yet. You've just got to, at the very, very least, you've got to tell someone, whether it's just telling a business partner, your spouse, telling your family, telling some friends, telling a mentor, or just going around town and saying, hey, I've got this new idea for a business. I'm working on getting it started. What do you think about something like this? You've got to be able to go out there and tell people. And the biggest part of that is the accountability piece, because you're going to encounter some pushback at some point. After that initial 60 seconds, it's only going to get harder from there. So being able to tell people is going to be that accountability piece, because if you become the type of person that has a lot of ideas, but they never come to fruition, and you are telling people, then you're going to start developing that reputation of, oh, well, last week he was going to be a race car driver, and this week he's going to be an astronaut, and what's next month going to be? So I think that human accountability element is so crucial, because you want to deliver. If you're a good leader, if you're a good entrepreneur, you want people to expect quality from you, and you want people to trust you. So if you go out there, you tell people, talk to them about what action steps you're taking, talk to them about your ideas. These don't have to be fully formed services. You don't have to have your prices sorted out. And I think a good example of that is, the I Wear Your Logo stuff that you've been doing, Jason. It was born out of a conversation 3 minutes maybe before we hit record on a podcast, and then you announced it. That's telling people, right? You didn't have all of it thought out. You didn't even have the domain purchased yet, but we were sending people to the domain, and we didn't know what it was going to entail, but you committed to taking action, and then you told people, and that was what helped snowball it. And it takes a little bit of time for things to get rolling, and especially other people that own businesses, they know that you're not going to be up and running and ready to go a couple hours after you told them. They know what it's like. And even people that don't own businesses know what it's like, but it really starts to build a foundation for you. And then people are going to know what to expect. And when you do have those services ready, when you do have the flyers ready to go, what your prices are, and you're ready to start accepting customers or clients, you've got people that aren't cold prospects. They aren't people that you've never heard of that you're going to try and quote unquote sell to them. These are people that have heard about your idea. They were there when you were excited about it and sharing it for the first time. And so they're going to be looking forward to you coming back and saying, all right, I'm ready to go. And that's starting to bleed into my next point. And so I'll pass it over to you, Jason, and then we can dive into that third piece there.
Yeah, I like what you said about telling people. That's one of the things that I've heard here about a year ago, and really strive to do that. It's, come up with an idea, tell the world, and then figure out how to get it done. If you wait to figure out how to get it done and tell the world, you probably won't do it because nobody knows. And you always hear that thing. As you're trying to build your brand, they say it's not who you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you, that really, really matters, and I was listening to, sorry about my tooth. I was listening to a thing today, and he says that, human beings can only hold like 150 names, 150 ideas, 150 products in our minds at one time. So if that is the case, you're very limited on who you're going to reach out to. But what if 1 million people knew you? You're going to be one of their 150. You're not going to know the million. They're going to know you. And that's really what it boils down to. So it's not what you know, and it's not even who you know, it's who knows you. And by doing that, is getting out there, taking that step, getting out there, introducing yourself, even if it is on a beta test, where you're out there to say, hey, what do you think of this idea? I've been kicking this around. Go around and find out locally. If it's going to be an online business, find out online. Talk to people online, that say, hey, you know what? I'm kicking around this idea. If this is something that came to fruition, would you be interested? No commitment, but at least you can kind of get a gauge of what kind of validate your business idea and stuff like that. So back to you.
Yeah. And that's a great point. Workshopping an idea like that with live people that could potentially be your customers, I think is a really great idea. And honestly, and I'm sure you have the same experience, as you start offering services or products, they start evolving along with your clients. Prices change. They might go up, they might go down. What you offer in a package might increase or it might decrease. So part of that telling people phase can be going around and asking, let's just take, our marketing company, for example. If you were going to have somebody come in and do some Facebook ads for you, or just run your Facebook and social media for you, is that something you'd even be interested? One,
and what would you like to see them do?
Yep, exactly. What services do you want included in that?
Yeah.
What budget do you even have for something like that? Is that $100 thing that's worth investing in? Is it a $10,000 thing? And you start going around and asking 5, 10, 100 people in your community. You start to pull all these resources. And so one guy's like, yeah, I'd pay you $5 to do that a month. And then you go to another business and he's like, man, if you could deliver one deal for me, it'd be worth $100,000. So you start to build all this data that, again, you can't think that up in the 30-page business plan when you've never talked to anyone and you've been sitting there trying to come up with this finished idea before you've even started. So you've got to get out there and talk to people, figure out what they need, figure out what they want. Is this an idea that's even going to be good? If you went out and talked to 100 people and all of them said, I don't think that's something I would ever want, you've got two options. Maybe you need to go find another 100 people who are the right customer, or maybe it's not the right idea, but you wouldn't have known that just sitting there, with your Word document open, trying to come up with a business plan, quote unquote.
And offering a service or product that nobody's interested in. That's a whole thing with all of us with businesses. If we have a passion, we got to find out if other people have that passion.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that you're going to go after. So if you have a passion for antiques and you want to create like a pawn where they go around and do pawn,
like a pawn shop.
A pawn shop, but kind of like a pawn wars, where they were going out. If you wanted to do that, well, if you don't, you're not going to go around and talk to people that are running car dealerships. You're going to go around and talk to people that are maybe in that market or in that area, kind of find out if this is something that they'd be interested in. And so, just don't hey, you know what, I'm going to build this professional business, but I'm going to go talk to the drug dealers because they're easier to talk to and they're always high or whatever. And then I can, I get the right response and stuff like that, but they're not the ones that are going to be your end users, so make sure if you're talking to 100 people, you're talking to the right 100 people that you see a fit in their business.
Yep, absolutely. And really that kind of starts to bleed into our third step here. And that's just following up. And I think this is the biggest key here. Even more important than the first two. But it can't happen without them. When you're going around talking to these people, you're getting information from them, you're telling them about your new idea. You have to go back to them, 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, and keep following up with them. Because especially the ones that you tell for the first time, they're going to remember when you had this idea to open the coffee shop or open the mobile lawn cutting business, and they're going to remember that. And so again, it doesn't have to be a fully formed idea at first. You get some of that data, you tell them a little bit about what you're going to do, you go back and start tinkering on it a little bit more. And then when you're ready to start offering services, you go back and tell them, hey, is there anybody that might want this service? Do you need this service yourself? Do you think you could, is there a person you could call right now that would be a good person to work with for this thing? That's following up. And then again, always checking in with them, because they're going to be the ones that remember where you started at. And that's going to really be your base of your clients, of your customers, of your supporters. And then if you keep going back there and following up with them and understanding even more about what your product or what your service should look like, that's going to be important. So maybe this all doesn't have to happen in obviously 60 seconds. But these are the three things that you need to and really should think about. And you sit down and in 60 seconds say, okay, what is this going to look like? And what am I going to commit to taking action? Okay, it's going to be a photography company. Great. These are the 5 people that I'm going to talk to. I'm going to start making phone calls today, or I'm going to start messaging them on Facebook today, or I'm going to send them a text message today, or I'll go visit them next week. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to happen immediately, but you've got to write those, whether it's 5, 10, 100 people down, as many as you can get, and then say, okay, when am I going to follow up with them? So that you can say that in that meeting, hey, I'm here to tell you about my new business. We don't have all the ideas flushed out yet, but we're just really excited and we want to spread the good news. And these are the things we're thinking about offering. And we're going to come back through in about 3 weeks once we're ready to start offering services, once we're open for business. And I'd love to share with you what's going on then. Right? That all can happen in 60 seconds. Thinking through those 3 steps can happen in 60 seconds.
Yeah. So Ty, you brought up a good point, because I was going to ask you about it, is how soon can you implement a 60-second business plan?
Yeah. I mean, really, this is designed to happen. The thought process happens immediately, right? Because here's the problem with a traditional business plan. It's not that they're not useful. It's not that I don't think that they have their place in a business, because I do. Mm-hmm. I think that at some point you're going to have to come through and you're going to have a 1-page, a 2-page, maybe it's a 30-page business plan, depending on what your goals are. But this process should happen in 60 seconds, right when you have an idea that you've been thinking about, that keeps rolling around in your brain, that really, kind of starts getting, your senses going, right? You just know, like, this is going to work. This is going to work. I keep having this idea. Bam, commit to taking action. Okay, I'm going to do this. This is what it's going to be. Who am I going to tell? And then when am I going to follow up with them? And I think that can happen in 60 seconds. And it's something that you can implement immediately. And as the course of business goes on, yes, you're going to have to sit down and think about, okay, what is the financing going to look like? What is the objectives of the business? Who do I need to hire? What are our key demographics? What are going to be our tools for marketing this business? All of that's going to come. But the problem is everybody puts that first before any of these other steps happen, before they commit to taking action, before they actually go through and tell people, before they even follow up with people. That, I think, is like putting the cart before the horse, right? You can put together all these documents and really think through the plan and think through every possibility that's going to happen. But you're still going to run into problems. You're still going to run into roadblocks. So in my opinion, it's better to implement these 3 things within that 60 seconds and then just start going with it, because you don't know what's going to happen. Your photography business turns into a photo video business, turns into website design, turns into logo design, turns into marketing, all sorts of stuff that, again, you could sit there for months and months and months and think about how you're going to evolve into that. Or you can get started.
Yeah. And doors open, once you get started and stuff, and getting the 60-second business plan in place today, because committing is number 1, and then saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna take action and I'm gonna tell people about it. And that can start today. I know tonight it's like 6:20 or whatever. You can literally pick up the phone and call somebody and go through whatever we just talked about. You can literally start it today. And that's what I love about what Ty and I do. We really want to create action steps that you can take immediately. You don't have to wait 3 months to get this stuff going. You can implement a 60-second business plan tonight, tomorrow, next week. You determine it, but you got to set the goal. Say, hey, you know what? It's 6:30 at night. The businesses that I'm going to talk to are open during the day. Okay. Then instead of time aside, tomorrow and Monday to make that happen. But you can literally create all that awareness and stuff in that 60 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, if you think back to the people writing down their business plan on a napkin, there's a limited amount of space. If you think about the difference between a napkin at a diner and even a one-page standard business plan, they look very different. But why has that become our thought of like, oh, I remember when this was a thought on a napkin, right? Because it's condensed. There's not a lot of information there. Not everything's thought through, but the core of it is there. And that's what's important. You've got to be able to see that.
You can look at one page, you can look at 60 seconds by writing it down. It can be visible to you every single day. 30 pages, you got to flip through it. Okay, here's the marketing side. Did I track this or whatever? So you still need that. Like you said, it's important to have that for the financial side and knowing your numbers in the end and stuff. But just to get started, do the 60-second business plan. Don't do the 30 page because it could put you 6 months behind of where you need to be.
Yeah. And really, I think it's better to go out and get, if you're in a client services business, a few clients and figure it out. Because again, the services are going to change, the offering's going to change, the price is going to change. So yeah, you can run a 10-year financial projection on, a service that's $1,000 a month. And then 4 weeks into it, you realize people are only going to pay $200 a month for something like that, or they're going to pay $10,000 a month for something like that. So your projections are shot anyway.
Right.
So you've just got to go out and experiment. You've got to go out and, rubber meets the road. It's kind of like the old inventors, right? They didn't have extensive blueprints. It was, hey, let's see what happens when I touch this wire to this wire. Oh, electricity happened.
Good or bad.
Yeah. And maybe they did sit down and say, how do we create electricity? Let's
still start with an idea, and then they just did it. They tried things, like I said. They didn't fail 1,000 times. They found 1,000 ways they didn't work.
Yep. They didn't write a 30-page business plan for however many light bulbs failed before the one that took off. If they would have sat and wrote extensively about each different prototype, it wouldn't have worked. But
probably wouldn't have lights today.
Yep, exactly. But again, it took off. It was something that worked. And then there was probably a time and place to be able to say, let's look at the future of the light bulb. How are we going to sell them? How are we going to get them distributed? How are we going to tell people about them outside of the people we know? All of that has its time and place, but so often ideas get stuck in that idea phase. Entrepreneurs get stuck in the idea phase, and they think if the right idea could just come along, if the perfect business opportunity came along, if the market was better, if the market was worse, if only I had this, if only we were in this position, and then you look back and you're like, wow, we missed a lot of time that we could have been out doing services, making our business better. But if you're sitting there saying like, how are we going to do this? What are these things that we have to consider? It's just stalling. It's just wasting time essentially. So you've got to do it.
People procrastinate because they don't know what the next step is.
Yep.
And they try to figure that out. And that's where, coming alongside a mentor, telling people about it, they might help you figure out what the next step is. I was thinking of a story here that I heard here a couple of years ago about a guy. He's doing a presentation for all these millennials, young people and stuff in this room, and they're all on the phone. And he's getting frustrated. He's throwing out all these good ideas, and they're all on the phone. And I finally stopped the meeting and said, "Hey guys, pay attention here. Get off your phones." And they said, "Well, your ideas were so great. We're texting our buddies over in Japan, and they're already running with the idea." And so, I mean, that's how minds are starting to work today.
Yeah.
And it is, hey, that sounds good. Let's put it into place. We haven't thought it all through. It's kind of like that hold my beer, watch this type thing. but yeah, it is. sometimes, you got to run with it. And he said, "Hey, go for it then. If that's what you guys are doing, good." I thought you guys were just ignoring me. No, they were listening, and they were sending the stuff to their counterparts and stuff, talking about the ideas that he's talking about. So yeah, technology today is amazing to help us move faster and more rapid than ever before.
Yep, absolutely. And really, that's how you and I got to know each other. We finally got the chance to talk on the phone. And then I think it was within a couple of weeks that we had our very first, back then we called it our Drinks with Leaders call. Now it's Cab Online. Now we're doing a book study through it. And then from that, we had the idea on a Tuesday night. Hey, let's turn this into a podcast. All right. Are you free on Thursday? Yep. All right, let's start recording it. Then we got to last week. Hey, this would be cool to do on Facebook Live. Okay, let me press the button. I think there's a button here on Zoom that lets us go live on Facebook. And again, we could have sat down and thought about
we learned that through the eyes of the world, because we were live on Facebook doing that. Doing that. So
yeah, exactly. And yeah, maybe we could have sat down and said, okay.
And they weren't even 60-second business plans. Those were like 20 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even tell people really, we just
when we told people we were doing it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we could have sat there and thought about, how do we market this better? Let's come up with 10 different videos that we can each do throughout the week to market something like this. And yeah, at some point we're probably going to sit down and do something like that. But again, we committed to taking action. Yeah. We told people by going live and they saw it and people tuned in, but we could have waited weeks and weeks and weeks to figure out how to go live on Facebook with the podcast. But we didn't, we just went right with it. And then, you think about the follow-up piece. Here's the follow-up piece. We came back for week 2 for the podcast going live. And so this is, in my opinion, this is just a really great tool to get you out of the idea phase that so many of us get stuck in. And, I've got a little black, like leather bound book with a bunch of different ideas in it. And every time I have an idea, because I used to have this problem of every time I had a cool idea for a business, I would tell Alyssa and try and convince her, for hours, and she would just get sick of it. But I always had this problem of the idea was still stuck in my brain, but I could never bring myself to actually do the idea, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I started writing these things in this little leather bound book. So I just call it like my little idea book or something like that. But every time I have a business idea, I kind of just summarize it at the top and then write all the things down that I'm thinking. And, at some point, if one of those ideas really is something that keeps sticking around in my brain, because I think that's the big thing. There's a difference between having an idea and having a recurring idea that's like, yes, there's something to this. This is needed. This is what's lacking in my industry. Being able to take those ideas and say, this is the one, we're going to do it. We're going to see if it works. Let's commit to this action step. Let's tell these people and let's follow up with them in however many weeks, however many days. And let them know the progress. So I hope this helps people get out of that rut of, I've got all these great ideas, but I can never figure out how to actually make them a functioning business.
Yeah. And that's probably where I come in. You might bring up an idea, or you hear something that I say and you say, hey, that sounds like, because like the shirt thing, I never thought, or the logo thing, I never thought of that as a business till you mentioned it. Then I ran with it, because I'm good at implementing right away. And so yeah, keep the ideas coming. I only sleep 4 or 5 hours a night now. I could get by on less probably, but
yeah, and that's a good point too. Is it's helpful to surround yourself with people that are going to support those ideas, give you the fuel to keep going. Find that supportive group to say, this is my idea. And maybe that's part of the people you tell. Say, I want to start this business. I don't know if it's going to work, but I need you to help me when I want to turn back, or I need you to help me when it's going to get tough, or whatever that looks like. You've got to find those people that are going to match your energy, help keep you going, because it's tough. Everything starts from an idea, and there's a long road ahead before it really takes off. And if somebody's trying to tell you that one of their ideas is gonna catch like wildfire in a couple hours, you're gonna be a millionaire, probably not the right person to be listening to there, because it's a long road ahead. But you are never going to start that, as cheesy as it sounds, you're never going to start that unless you take that first step. And that's the 60-second business plan, is that first step in that journey.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as far as I know, we've given you everything we can. We've taken about 35 minutes to explain the 60-second business plan. So, that's good, because you know what, we're passionate about it, and we just want you to really take action. And that's really what this is about. You commit, you tell people, and you follow up. You put those three, you can use those with any type of business, and you can use those for different phases of your business. If you add new products, different things like that, when you're doing the follow-up, and somebody's already bought your products from you, you know what, your best clients are the ones that you currently have, right? So go back to them and say, hey, listen, we're going to introduce another product in that I think can enhance what you're already doing or whatever, and get the buy-in there, because they already trust you. It's that KLT, know, like, and trust. It's that method there. Is they already do that, so why not go back and say, hey, we got new services coming out, would you take a look at them and stuff? And that's that follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as we kind of wrap up here, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are around this. Is this something that would be helpful to you? Do you find yourself stuck in that idea phase too often? And what would you add to it? Is there something that we missed out on the 60-second business plan? Is there something we should take out? Should it be even shorter, less to consider? It's all fair game. And let us know what you think about the podcast too, especially if you like this live version of the podcast. If you like being able to see us live on video, if there's a time that you'd rather watch us go live, a better day of the week to go live. Again, we're just rolling with it, and once we get that input and once we get that data, we can start making those adjustments and make this an even better live podcast, something that you're going to tune into every week. And same thing for topic ideas. Is there something that you're struggling with in your business that you need some help getting over? And so let us know in the comments, or shoot us a message on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Say, hey, why don't you guys talk about this for 30 seconds? And maybe we'll come up with some insightful things, or maybe you'll be like, man, I shouldn't have told them about that problem, because now I'm even more confused.
Again, that's why I record things. You never know what we're going to say that might be good or bad.
Yeah. So. Yep. Exactly. So yeah, as we wrap up here, there's a link in the post up here for you to go and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. So go ahead and hit that link. It'll take you there. You can always see the audio version of the show there on Spotify. If not, keep your eyes posted here if you like the video version best. And it's always helpful if you share with a friend. So shoot them a link to one of our past episodes on Spotify. Share this with them, the video version here on Facebook. Put their name in the comment and tell them to check this out. Maybe you've got someone stuck in that idea phase that they've got a good idea and they've just got to start implementing. And it would be helpful too if you like this, leave us a review on Spotify. That always helps us to have other people find the podcast and know that this is a resource out there for other business owners and other leaders. But as always, we're glad you tuned in. We're glad you were here with us as our second Facebook Live of the podcast wraps up. We just appreciate everybody tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you guys. You have a great night. We'll talk to y'all later.